Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. My name is Eva and today I am wrapping up all the comics I have read in the month of March. Has been quite a lot, as you could have seen from the stats, so I won't spend any time blabbering. I'm gonna just go straight into the wrap-up, and which will be followed by the TBR for the month of April, just for the comics again. And the only thing I wanted to address is I do apologize because my schedule of uploading has been a bit hectic in the last month. I do want to catch up, for example, on what I watched recently, which I had not done one of those in 6 months, so I'm catching up with those as well. I'm a bit more busy than usual, so yeah, thank you for being patient. To take this occasion to apologize for taking some time in replying to your lovely comments. Sometimes it takes time just because of life, basically. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go from the least enjoyable read to the most enjoyable one. When it comes down to comics, as usual, I had a very good reading month and I tend to enjoy my comics a lot. And so yeah, without further ado, let's get into the wrap-up. So at number 10 this month we have the Rose of Versailles. This is the kind of collector edition. It's book number 2 of 5. Now this is something that initially on my own I would have probably just stared at these beautiful covers and not picked up if it wasn't for the fact that Rose of Versailles was one of my favorite anime growing up as a child. In Italy I had a completely different name and a completely different vibe, but when I knew about the special editions of this one, I kind of just said, okay, I need to collect it and read it. Now, this is a shoujo manga, a romantic historical fiction, because it takes place during the French Revolution, and you follow Lady Oscar, who's captain of the guards of the Queen, I believe, but she is a woman, but she has been raised as a boy all her life. And you follow the court intrigues leading then to the French Revolution. Just to keep it very brief, I do tend not to give synopses for the stuff I read in my wrap-ups, only my TBRs, so I'm gonna keep it vague. Maybe I can keep like a one sentence synopsis for what I've read in my wrap-ups. So I enjoyed book number 2 way more than I did book number 1. I think the bind up of the first volumes, so book number 1 caught me off guard because this vibe of this manga didn't match up with the vibe that I was used to from the anime. This is way more fluffy, way more on the romance and drama, like romantic drama, rather than the actual drama and the tension that I remember from the anime. So when I got into these and it was all like very shoujo, and even as a shoujo it was very cheesy, yeah, it threw me off balance a bit, that thing. Now this one, I enjoyed how things move quicker than the first volume. Like a lot of events happen to the point that I don't know how much she can put in other 3 whole volumes like this, because from what I remember from the anime, this covers a lot of the plot and I'm just afraid that the other volumes will be more boring than this due to the amount of plot that I remember in my mind as left. But we will see, because it's been decades since I watched the anime and I could be completely wrong. Said that, it's still very cheesy and very dramatic, like very much like my queen, why did you do that? And leave me alone. So yeah, it's very dramatic. It makes me laugh for how much dramatic and cheesy it is, but at the same time I don't love it ultimately, and I do want to rewatch the anime eventually, because I don't understand if my recollection of the anime is so far away from what actually was, or if the anime indeed had a completely different vibe than the manga. But this is ancient, guys. At the same time, I think we have to keep that in mind. It was published in the 70s, I believe, so take that with a pinch of salt. And also want to add, there is almost like a rapey scene in these, which I didn't remember from the anime, and I was just like, what's up with that? Because of the context in which it happens and between who it happens, I'm just like, so that was a bit off. But yeah, overall 10th place. I gave it probably 3 stars, 3.25 stars, something of the sort. Number 9 we have Jujutsu Kaisen volume 0. So I had read volume 1 a few months ago, wasn't impressed, and then found out that there was a volume 0, which I imagine it was a bit of a prequel and could give me a bit more context of what was going on. And so indeed I read these, and I do believe that these gave me a bit more information of what I gathered by reading volume 1. This is a shonen jump fantasy trilogy, and it's a very popular one because I think the anime has also received a lot of praises. But I decided that I wanted to try the manga first, which I don't know if it was the right choice for me. I'm still very much on the fence when it comes down to Jujutsu Kaisen. I just got this fear that it's a bit too YA for me. Things are very convenient, and I just somehow, even if I did enjoy these okay, it still stayed on a 3 stars range as the first volume did. I do own volume 1 and 2, so I want to continue on, and I think I want to give it a try until volume 5 and then make up my mind. And I already asked you guys what you thought, and it was a bit of like a mixed bag when it came to this one. So again, I'm gonna ask again, if you read it all, is it worth it? And it's not a problem of the art or anything, it's just as of now unremarkable. And so yeah, I know, I'm sorry if this is like a very unpopular opinion, but it doesn't sound new. And I don't know if my mistake was reading this after reading Chainsaw Man and just in my mind comparing them and these falling behind a bit. I don't know what's going on with this, so do let me know. Although I don't mind having read volume 0, it did explain a few things, which now I can reread volume 1 and continue on with a bit more knowledge. So I'm thankful for that. But I don't know, is it worth the money? Because it's a lengthy series. At number 8, I have The Promised Neverland. This is volume number 3 that I read. It's a manga horror slash fantasy. I'm gonna show you some, like the first page. So hopefully it keeps like the spoilers to a minimum. And it's about this bunch of kids trying to leave this orphanage where they grew up, but they now realize that they are actually prisoners. So overall, I do enjoy the series. This is no different from other volumes. I still enjoy overall, but I'm nowhere near loving this. One thing must be said, I really don't like kids protagonists. It kind of bores me, like I don't know, like in general, following kids I found a bit boring, and for how much these kids can be clever, at the end of the day they are still kids. So in certain parts, at times I found myself dragging through these or getting a bit bored. However, must be said that some of the things that we discover in these came out of the blue, but again, I was so excited about a reveal that we get, a twist if you want, and then turns out that that plot twist was convenient to the main plot. And again, that's what I don't like much sometimes when I read like more younger books or manga in these cases, because I think the plot twists at the end of the day, even if they are cool, you know, somehow then they are twisted again to be very convenient for our main protagonist, which is okay. Maybe there is the part of me that now has appreciated seinen manga so much, some brutal stories if you want, that then I kind of want to see the tragedy play out. I think it would be more realistic than giving you a hint of tragedy but then solving it over the convenience of the main protagonist. I don't know how to explain this another way. I've heard great things about all of these, so I'm gonna still continue on with these. I just have kind of a prediction for the future where I see these staying between like a 3.5, 3.75 stars as a series overall, and not either coming completely to love it, but I might be completely wrong, so we will see. Okay, listen, the next one is weird because I debated a lot where to put this. So this is Killing and Stalking. Now the next one I debated a bit because it's a weird one. I read this online. It's available as a webtoon, all of it from my understanding online, which are 767 chapters in total. I think it's done, and there are going to be 4 deluxe volumes of these that are published, and you can find on Amazon or other platforms where you acquire the books. As of now, I'm going to read these all online for free and then decide if I want to acquire it or not. But without further ado, I'm going to tell you which one is it. This is Killing and Stalking, and this is a Korean webtoon. So this is a story of this boy who becomes obsessed with a schoolmate, and he starts stalking this schoolmate only to find out that this schoolmate is a serial killer. And so it's basically the story of these 2 perverts having to deal with each other, and it's wild. First of all, it's very, very violent. It's horror thriller, but there is definitely a lot of horror elements that are around sex, and so there is a lot of sexual violence in these, violence in general, which is why I was on the fence about this. When initially I approached these and read the first 2 chapters, I was like, why is this going around? Why is this so praised, and I was a bit worried that the sexual violence of these two boys were kind of shipped together and kind of romanticized. I was very worried about that. And then recently, before I decided to go on, I read an article where they were interviewing the author of these, and he explained very clearly that he didn't mean for these two boys to be romanticized or shipped together. These are a story about two very unhealthy, destructive people that are not meant to be shipped together or anything of the sort. So it's truly a horror, and it's, you know, a spiral down into madness. So that reassured me a bit. Part of me still wonders why, like, what is the scope of this? But at the same time, because I like horror, I think, like, you know, I shouldn't be a hypocrite and criticize these while then I read other very shit. At the end of the day, it's just a story, and as long as you can go in, you know, with a healthy mind, putting these to distance and realizing that this is just a horror, basically, then you'll be fine. And I'm also definitely guilty of, this is so fucked up that I'm honestly curious to see where this is going. I would say, because it's free and online, if you want to give it a try, you can for free online, and then you can make up your mind. I have decided to read a few chapters throughout the month. So this one, the ones I've read for now are the first 10 chapters, first 10 issues, however you want to call it. So I'm by no means finished with these. I don't know, I am honestly guilty of being curious where this is going, but it's an unhealthy read. It's about an unhealthy topic, and it's very graphic. It's very graphic with the violence and everything, the blood and body parts, but then when it comes down to like intimate parts, they made them fluorescent. This online, I don't know, that was a bit weird, having like fluorescent male parts, I don't know. Anyway, moving on from these. At number 6, I have Summertime Rendering. I'm holding this very awkwardly because I've got my reading journal in my hands. These are stunning, like the aesthetic of this manga is stunning, the art is stunning, and this is a horrorish crime thriller. I think I categorize as a crime thriller. On the back it says mystery horror, and for one sentence synopsis about this boy investigating the murder of a schoolmate on the island he grew up in, and then wild things starts to happen. I struggled at the beginning of this on remembering everything from volume 1, although it had not been too long, because a very complex plot, which I do appreciate at the same time. However, it's one of those plots that you need to sit down and remember stuff and put things together. It takes a bit of brain power to understand exactly what's going on at all times. So I spent a lot of time learning again how this is working, considering that also our main protagonists are still finding out how this works, so we're gonna find out with them. At the beginning I kind of struggled a bit with all the complexity of the plot, and then the second half I enjoyed way more. I think one character comes back into play, and I think it's a very fascinating, lovable character, so that character really made a difference. I must admit that by the end I was still very confused, and I also thought that plot-wise this does very little in terms of progressing it. I think this will work amazing as an anime. I believe there is an anime of this, so I'm gonna definitely finish this, which I don't know how many volumes it has, but I believe it's finished, and then I'm probably gonna watch the anime because I think the anime is gonna consolidate my understanding of the plot concept. At number 5 I've got Monstrous. I'm gonna move a bit because I think I'm trying to put here tabs to, you know, give you more details about the comic, but I tend to shift a bit, so sorry if sometimes this is covering me or the book. I'm gonna try and stay in this corner more. So Monsters Volume 2, this is a steampunk adult graphic novel series. You follow this protagonist who belongs to a race that's not human and was at war with humans, and now the war has ended, but these races are very much against each other, they're very much discriminatory, and yeah, the post-war is not going smoothly, and she is trying to find the truth about her mother. Let me try and see if there is anything I can show you, because this is quite graphic, violent at the same time. Not the most violent thing I've ever read, but it's definitely graphic. Now, I think what must be said about Monstrous is the art style. Sana Takeda is one of the most talented artists when it comes down to graphic novel I've ever seen. Like, her art is like phenomenal. I would suggest these to everybody just to appreciate the amazing art. I really enjoyed volume 2, I think more than volume 1. I think I'm grasping the story more, and that's why I don't want to stop with this reread. This is the last volume I had already read, so from now on everything I read is going to be brand new. I noticed a trend of me loving rereads more than I initially loved the graphic novel upon the first read, so I think I'm gonna keep rereading stuff years after, because I'm truly appreciating this more. I really love the island plot that we get into these, and I'm also growing more attached to Micah and all the other main protagonists in these. I think it's getting very intriguing, and yes, it's still very complex plot, but I do believe that if you read it back to back, then you know you should be able to follow along better than I did back in the days when I would have a gap of 6 months to a year before I read another volume, which is not advisable with a complex plot like this. But stunning. It's full of lore, it's full of myths, and so that's why probably I love it so much. It feels very much like a complex, well fleshed out world. For the explanation of it and now it's presented to us, it's not the best in terms of clarity. At number 4, I have Morning Glories Volume 4. This is a thriller graphic novel with some elements of another genre, but probably if I don't say it's better because it won't give any spoilers. Let's say that it starts as a thriller. It follows a bunch of kids accepted into a prestigious school only to find out that there is something very sinister about the school and they are not able to leave. It's a bit of a trend of being entrapped in schools and stuff in this wrap-up now that I actually pay attention to it. I think, you know what I love about this series is that you never know what's gonna hit you next. Like, you think you know, you make your predictions, your theories, and bam, no, you were wrong. Something else happened instead. And I really, really appreciated this graphic novel, most of all because of that element of surprise that is constant. Now, this is volume 4, and for the first 4 volumes, I was always on the edge of my seat and all my theories were flushed down the toilet. For me, I was read so much by now, thousands of things, thousands of mysteries and crime and thrillers, and I really struggled to find element of surprise. This is gold because it's providing me with something that I constantly seek and very rarely get. This complicates stuff even more confused, dumbfounded. I don't know where this is going, but I'm here for the ride. It's not very popular in the graphic novel genre that I know of, but maybe because the series was never finished, which I'm gonna worry about that when I get to the last volume. And at number 3, I have the Vinland Saga, the Vinland Saga, book 3. I think this contains 2 volumes, and I am still within the first arc by reading these, so I probably might do like a single arc spoilery review once I finish it, which I should be finishing with the next one. Vinland Saga is a historical fiction story about Vikings, and I love this volume as I've been loving most of them. I loved how in these we explore more Thorkel and Thor story. It's still very vague, we still don't know exactly what happened, but we're giving more context, more content for it. I honestly adore Thorkel as a protagonist. I think it's Thorkel. It's this guy here. Just because, you know, guys, I'm horrible with names, so it's very important that I check. It's this guy here. I think it's Thorkel. I love him. I think his character, as of now, is one of my favorite one. While Askeladd, in this, he comes a bit more passive in this one, which is a side of him that I have not yet seen, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if it suits him a lot. I do believe he's gonna go back to his usual psychopath self very soon. I must say that our main protagonist, as of now, is the one I like the least. Like, I'm on a journey with him because of the characters that he meets, if it makes sense. But yeah, I don't have any complaint whatsoever about this one in general. It's more slow, it's contained, so we just follow kind of a battle scene if you want, and I love the protagonists of that battle scene. I love the battle scene itself, but we don't explore farther from that. However, very surprising was what's happening with the prince. Loved that side of the story, loved to see where this will play out, and yeah, I'm gonna continue on with Vinland Saga. Number 2, I have One Piece Volume 1. I finally started this series, and you know what, I'm so happy that I have. This is a very famous, is he a Shonen Jump pirate? Massive manga series where it's a lot of the times, if you look at the best of all times, manga best of all times, this scores pretty high, if not in the first place. I was told though that this was a character driven story, and so it was rather slow, and because you guys know me by now, they kind of said, you know, be patient, because although I do like character driven stories, there must be an element of the plot. I'm definitely, if I have to choose between the two, I would choose plot over characters. Most of the times, turns out that I was worried about not liking this, but as you can see, I clearly loved it. I loved it. I really genuinely thought it was such a fresh and such a needed read among other heavy stuff. And I loved like seeing Luffy grow up. Is it Luffy how you pronounce it? Growing up and embark on his journey. I think the characters really come through the pages. The way Oda manages to really make these characters seep in under your skin and just grow attached to them in only one volume, I was honestly genuinely surprised. Of course, the art is amazing. I'm gonna show you some of one page. And I think this is something I've noticed in manga a lot. A lot of the artists and authors that I love in graphic novels and manga specifically are able to combine amazing art with the, I don't know, the capacity of making these characters really come to life in a sense. I also think that because this is quite hilarious, this helps a lot. The fact that I can generally have some smiles, I can generally like have some good laughs when I read these helps. One critique is definitely the fight scenes. Now, because I come from Berserk and other stuff which are very famous for having very neat, clear and amazingly done battle scenes, these suffered in comparison. It's messy. You guys told me about it and you were right. I definitely picked it up actually before reading your comments of its message. So I read it like, oh, this is a bit messy, and then someone said, oh, be aware, the fight scenes are a bit messy. Yes, indeed. I had noticed that, and I think you're definitely right. But because I already in my mind went into this thinking it's gonna be a slow character driven story, I can kind of agree that I'm not here for the battle scenes, if it makes sense. I'm here definitely for these characters. Said that, I think this had more plot than I was expecting. So that was a plus. I was expecting to be way slower than it actually was. Not saying that this won't slow down eventually, it might, but hopefully I will by then enjoy the character so much. I do love pirates. I love pirates stories, and I guess because I can't go on a boat without throwing up my entire soul, so and always fascinated me the idea of pirates. I can live vicariously a pirate life by reading this manga. And at number one, as last year Berserk was featured quite a lot as my number one, and you guys knew I was loving it. I think this year is gonna be the year of Dorohedoro. I am obsessed with these. It encompass all the genres that I really love, which is grimdark, fantasy, horror, and humoristic in a sense. It just has it all. I think volume 3, it's probably to this point, at this point in time, my favorite one. I'm gonna show you some of, I adore these kind of colored pages we get at the beginning. And the guy has a new series. I'm gonna find out the new series. I think he has another series out, so I'm gonna try that one at some point during this year, hopefully. I need to buy the volume because now I'm obsessed with this author. I adore this. Like, there's no other way of explaining how much I love Dorohedoro. This is a fantasy, horror, seinen manga. And the fact that of this, I love the mystery, I love our main protagonist, but I love the bad guys so much. I am honestly rooting for everyone, which is impossible because of course they are against each other. I don't know where this is going, but I do have a hint that it's not gonna be as easy as our main protagonist, enemies, fight, someone dies, and that's the end of it. I think this is gonna get more messy. The mind of this man, in this it's featured a fire flashing toilet that if you've read this, you know what I mean. He creates a world that it's so weird, like so bizarre, extreme in a sense, but if you stop and think at the same time, it's genius. I adore Dorohedoro. I think it's just a crazy ride, and it's the kind of crazy ride and amount of violence and mystery that I absolutely adore. I adore the art. I could praise these for ages. Like, I could literally spend another hour just saying how much I love this one. So I won't, But Dorohedoro is one of the best suggestions I got on this channel ever. So yeah, I had, as you can see, a very good reading month, and now I'm gonna have a very ambitious TBR for the month of April. It's very ambitious. I don't know if I can make it, but I'll give my best. So I'm gonna start with 4 things that are on their way, but they have not arrived yet. And these are, first of all, Berserk Volume 13 came out. I believe this is the second to last deluxe edition that we will have as of now, because we are putting out new chapters. So I don't know when the last volume, volume 14, will come out, but basically Miura passed away after finishing volume 14 of the deluxe editions. So then a new author has picked Berserk up, but we will have probably to wait a while before we'll see ever like a deluxe volume 15. And yeah, I am now in the Fantasia arc, the last arc that Miura did, and then I didn't know this had come out in March already. I apologize again for not having picked up this immediately, but yeah, I will. This month I have bought it and now it's coming, it's on its way. Berserk is the GOAT. It's a very grim, dark fantasy story, manga, seinen, so for adults only, and you follow a guy, Guts, who is on a path of revenge after he's been betrayed by someone very important to his life. And then I found out that the author of Chainsaw Man had put out a collection of short stories that I believe might be a prequel to Chainsaw Man. So of course I had to acquire it, and I will read this series of short stories. Chainsaw Man is, I've completed all the volumes that were out, I believe so, the first part of the series, and I am currently watching the anime, and it's basically the story of his boy who has a pet dog who's a demon, and he makes a pact with this demon dog in order to save himself after he is brutally murdered, and he becomes a demon himself. And then he will go eventually on to fight other demons. It's not too complex as a word, but at the same time I think it's intriguing enough. And now rewatching the anime, I'm just grasping even more of how this world works. So yeah, continuing with the short stories. I'm also then continuing with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Volume 3 of Part 1, Phantom Blood, because again, I don't want to give up too early. It's such a beloved series that although I didn't love Volume 2, I found a bit cheesy and weird. I don't know, I feel like I should really give this a try before giving up, so I'm planning to at least maybe read all the Phantom Blood saga and then see how I feel. But again, for now, if I can find affordable volumes, I will purchase them, although I'm not in a rush to finish this series. And this is a fantasy series where you follow different stories also. Phantom Blood is a story of certain protagonists, and then you might have a completely different story. It's very hectic. It's not the best art style that I've ever seen, and to be honest, I'm still looking to find out why it's so well loved. So if you love it, if you love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, let me know in the comments down below why you love it so much, because I'm very curious, and maybe I can kind of open my eyes and pay more attention to stuff that you might, you know, highlight for me. And the last thing I don't have in my hands yet, Summertime Rendering Volume 3. I've noticed that because I read Volume 1 and 2 with a gap of 3 to 4 months, I had lost part of a plot that were essential to actually understand what was going on. So I'm not gonna do the same mistake. I already gave you a bit of a synopsis when I did my wrap-up, but if you've not watched the wrap-up and you just want to see the TBR, this is a thriller horror series where you follow a boy going back to his native island after a schoolmate and your friend has passed away in mysterious circumstances. And when he goes to the island, he finds out that indeed something very sinister is going on, and he tries to put together the pieces of what's going on the whole island and what happened to his friend. All the rest of the things I have in my hands, so I'm gonna show you in no particular order whatsoever. Again, I'm gonna attempt this TBR, but it's a bit too much, so we will see. I'm gonna read the Kurosagi Corps Delivery Service Omnibus Volume 3. This has a total of 5 omnibus volumes out that are translated currently in English. I got this idea in my mind that in Japan more volumes are out, but we might never see the translation of it. This is a very underrated, in my opinion, paranormal series where you follow this bunch of kids at university trying to survive and earn some money, and because they all have some supernatural powers around dead bodies, they put together a delivery corps service. So they are able to find corpses, and the idea is we're gonna pick up the body and reunite it with the family so they can give it proper burial. But because of their powers, because of a lot of the bodies they find out have met violent deaths, they get into a lot of messes and they have to solve a lot of crimes or injustices that have been done to these bodies. Find it quite funny. And the only thing is a bit episodic, so each issue you solve a thing, which is not my favorite type of format of content. Because of how peculiar this is, it's still very intriguing, and some of the concepts that they explore around death and revenge I absolutely loved. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on with volume number 3. I'm gonna read Saga volume 10. Finally, I'm gonna continue on. I don't know how come I purchased this a couple of months ago and then didn't read it. These had been on a hiatus for 3-4 years, I don't even remember. So we had volume 9 finishing on a massive cliffhanger, of course, as you do, and then you disappear for years because you're mean, I guess. And so finally it has resumed and I need to read it. This is a sci-fi, very popular sci-fi graphic novel. I'm gonna show you some of the art. At the beginning of the story, you follow these two people coming from different continents that are at war with each other, but they fell in love against any law or judgment. Apparently they fell in love, and now the girl, she is pregnant, so they need to flee because both their kinds want now to kill them and, you know, their progeny, because a mix of the two should not be allowed to exist. You follow a bunch of characters into this intergalactic war and you follow them trying to raise their child and survive. You know, it's Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan, very, very popular graphic novels artists and authors. So yeah, I do love their stuff and I'm curious to see where this is going. As I said, I need to continue on my read of Monstrous, so I'm gonna read volume 3, which I believe I never read. Oh no, actually I've read this one. Sorry, I've actually lied to you in my wrap-up. It's my last reread, so it's volume 4 that I've not read. So I'm gonna read volume 3 and continue on with the steampunk fantasy series where you follow Manga. She looks human, but she's not human. She is an arcanic, part of a race that was at war with humans. Eventually this war has now ended in tragedy, from my understanding, and she is trying to find what happens to her mother and also what happened to end the war, because no one has a clear idea of what made the war end, what tragic event actually unfolded. And so yeah, it's the art, guys. I've already showed the art in the wrap-up part, but again, some people might just be interested in the TBR, so I'm gonna show you once more, one heart, some of the most amazing art in the graphic novel genre. Then I'm gonna proceed to read a couple of volumes of One Piece, just because this series is so massive, guys. I'm gonna try and kind of speed up a bit. Usually I would read only one volume, and I'm not saying that in the next months I won't read only one volume, because I think it allows me to put these in my from least to most enjoyable in a more unbiased way, because yeah, I might love these and hate these, but then I will try to combine them when I wrap them up, and I don't think it's fair. I think it messes up a bit my rating scale. But for this month I'm gonna attempt to read 2 of them. I'm gonna show you maybe one page of the art like this. Pirate series, you follow Luffy trying to find a unique treasure in the seas, and he's followed by a bunch of peculiar characters. Then I am continuing on with Dorohedoro. Probably the thing that I look the most forward to every month is continuing my read of Dorohedoro, steampunk, horror, seinen series, manga, where you follow a boy who is being transformed by a dark wizard in a giant lizard with a secret head hidden inside, and he needs to find this wizard in order to reverse what has been done to him and also understand who he was, because he forgot everything about his past life. And it's one of the best things I have ever read in the manga world. Morning Glories volume 5. Now this volume I remember like I acquired it like used, because at the time I read volume 1 and I wasn't too impressed, and now I'm rereading this series and loving it. It's about this bunch of kids accepted into a prestigious school because of their academic achievements apparently, but then turns out that there are other reasons why these kids should be in that school, and there are reasons why they can't leave the school, and there are prisoners there. And the last series I'm kind of constantly reading every month, I've skipped a month now, it's The Sandman. So this is volume 7. Why did I say 10? I don't even know. And yeah, I'm reading this. This is the story of Morpheus, the god of dreams. It's a horror fantasy novel, very popular. you might have now seen the Netflix adaptation of the first 2 volumes. I'm not the biggest fan of the art. I am, as of now, I've not decided how much I love this. I think I'm kind of neutral in between for now, but I do definitely want to consume all of it. As I said, you follow Morpheus in most of the volumes, not always, but it's kind of Morpheus is being captured, kept prisoners for years, and now when he comes back to his kingdom, he finds in shambles and he needs to put together things. And you also follow a lot of humans, a lot of their dreams, a lot of stories, a lot of myths and mythology. This includes so many subgenre of horror and fantasy, so many plots, and again Morpheus at times takes a back seat in all of that. But yeah, I'm reading these. And then I thought I needed a couple of palette cleansers, so I'm gonna read just 2 very funny and fluffy graphic novels. The first one is gonna be volume 6 of Adventure Time. I adore the graphic novel Adventure Time. It's childish, but it's absolutely adorable with some of the best art and just the colors, you know, pages of just this bunch of really bright colors and always make me just happy, so refreshed. And especially because some of these reads are quite heavy, I think that's gonna be like a nice one to have in between. And the same applies for Rick and Morty Tiny Rick. This is volume 5 in the series. These are self-contained. I am a huge fan of Rick and Morty, and when I found out that there was a graphic novel, I couldn't pass the opportunity up. Now I don't constantly read them, especially when it comes down to summertime and springtime. There is like a lot of value in just grabbing one of these, go in the garden and just enjoy a sunny afternoon outside, like just reading something so fluffy and humoristic. And the very last thing of this massive TBR is I Kill Giants. Now I've heard so many good things about this that I finally purchased it for my birthday. It's all in black and white, and I needed to just read it. It sounds amazing. It's a YA graphic novel that won so many awards, like so many things won. And it's the story of this girl that she struggled through life. I think she struggled also with being bullied in school, and she kind of then pictures herself in this fantastical world where she kills giants. And I think there's a lot of metaphors between her real life and what she has to fight and survive and deal with in her everyday life to your fantastical world that she pictures in her mind. So yeah, I am truly looking forward to reading these. So that's it for my massive TBR. Wish me luck, guys. Let me know what you're gonna read in April and what was your best read of March, and I'm gonna see you next time. Take care of yourself. Ciao!